What's up, everybody? Episode 10 of Andor, and it's really moving. I love this show so much. It's great. Hope you guys are doing good. Welcome. If you're brand new to the channel and you've never been here before we even get started, hit that subscribe button. That's all it counts right now. Hit it. Stick around. We got a lot of these things going on. We got reviews. We got reactions. We got everything, man. And we hope that you'll join us. But for those people who are already subscribed or here or just tuning in for the first time, as we have said with this show in Andor, and we do a longer spoiler discussion on Sith Council a little later on today. This will just be a short spoiler review. But this is what Tony Gilroy has written, the way that he's done it, and the way I've been kind of talking about it throughout the entire series is he's been setting up angles, right? So if you look at it in boxing terms, the way that I've been saying, he's been doing a jab for these angles, these 3 episode arcs that he does a jab, then he does a hook, and then he finishes you off with an uppercut. Now, he's done that a few different times. This is the 3rd time he's done it. There was one standalone episode, and that was the one where Andor ultimately got arrested, and it looked like he was just taking time off, and then he got thrown into this prison, and here we are now. And this great build-up, this THX build-up for the last 3 episodes, really. And the build-up that we got to the last one, where they're finally going to do the outbreak. Everybody knew it. It wasn't like a big surprised that this was going to be the outbreak episode, because how long are they going to keep Andor in prison? So the question was more so on how they were going to do it. I love the way that they executed it. I love the way that they Andor. This is what the show does very well. Even though it is called Andor, they're not afraid to let other characters take the forefront, but without sacrificing the fact that it is Andor's show. And an example of that is Kino, played by the great Andy Serkis. This is his episode. And I will be honest, I think that he should be nominated for a supporting actor role for this performance. I think that it was just so incredible what he did. This just kind of company man for the first episode, figuring, just going to do my work. I'm just going to get out of here in time. And then the more he watches what Andor is preaching, he understands it, and he knows he can't deny it anymore. And as they're just walking down the hall, and all the inmates are like, well, what's going on? What's happening? And Andrew's like, well, you're not going to tell him. I'm going to tell him. And they let him know that the old guy died, and they have an opportunity here. And Kino was on, as we saw in the last episode, Kino was ready. He's like, okay, I got to figure this out. And he goes to bed, he sleeps on, and he wakes up, and he's ready to kick some ass. And he's like, let's do it. And what they do throughout the entire thing is that they build on it. Everybody, and it was the nervousness of it all felt real. Like the idea that it's not going to be easy, and they lost a lot of men doing it, but they had known that, all right, if we do this, whenever they replace the new man, that's our time to attack. And Andor finally goes as they're moving through, and that's later on, but that's the one. And he's getting in that back in that engine room or whatever the hell it is, and he's smashing up the pipes, and he's getting ready, and it just shows. I love what they do with Andor, and it's the building. Andor, obviously, in this show, they've already made him so much more of an interesting character than he was in Rogue One. He was fine in Rogue One. It's Diego Luna, but he's just so much more developed, obviously, with more time and the more episodes, and you see the leadership coming out of him. You see the will to fight. You see what he's really good at. And even when some of these prisoners are trying to go through, and they're going through the rafters, and he's climbing his way up, and he finally kicks the one guy in the face. He blasts the other guy, and it's just it was so intense, and it just delivered on the promise of, is this going to be an interesting prison break? It was, and then some. And what they had to do when they get to that room with him and Kino, and they have the Imperials are there, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's Kino that shoots the dude first. He's like, oh, you don't know? He's like, well, we can shut it down, but he's got to do it. And they finally do it, and then Kino gives this speech, and he gives a partial part of the speech of the stuff that was given to him by Andor that inspired him. And it's that one way out, and they're screaming one way out. And how heartbreaking was it at the very end of this whole thing when Kino's like, I knew how to lead everybody here, but I ultimately knew what was going to happen to me because I can't swim. And Andor's like, wait, what'd you say? And then Andor goes flying off the side of it. And you don't see Kino die. You kind of assume that's his fate. You don't need to see it, but it opens up the door that if they ever wanted to bring him back, they could. but it's kind of a tragic ending. I mean, Andy Serkis, I've said it many times over, is, if not my favorite, one of my favorite actors working today. And I probably would put him as my favorite actor because there's just something about this guy. I'm so glad that obviously through stuff he did with Gollum and Caesar and those things, like that's where you first recognize him, right? And then they started finally saying, all right, enough, I hope he does more motion capture. I really, performance capture. I hope he does more of it. But the idea that more people now recognize him, understand how good he is, in general, and what he was able to do, and bring this out, and nobody needs. It's so funny. Some people take it so literally. I don't even know. I had a few people. Even a friend of mine was like, we're talking about, hey, I wonder if they could make that Snoke, and someone's like, stop. No, I'm not going to stop. So we're talking about. Do I think he's going to be Snoke? No, probably not. That's not the point. The point was that it was this new character, Kino, that you could make him. You could make him. You could have Andy Serkis be a different role because you never saw his face in anything else that he's done, and he delivers and then some. And it's a very tragic ending if it indeed is the ending of Kino. So the whole breakdown, and then he escapes with our boy from Rogue One, and off they go. And that's just one portion of it. Now I remember when this show was announced, and I said, if it's just stuff that Andor is doing, it could be intriguing, but it can't be the only stuff, and it certainly isn't the only stuff. This show was promised as a spy thriller, and it is exactly that. This is a spy thriller. From the music alone, when Andor is chipping away at those pipes, that's one part of it. You just hear that's very similar to like a Bourne or any of these other types of high intense kind of spy thrillers, but that's just the Andor stuff. And then the Imperial stuff is like one of the big reveals that we got, that this dude Lonnie, who's been just kind of in the background and steps up and says to the Imperials today, we should investigate, because if we don't investigate, they're gonna think something's up. So that's exactly what we need to do. And I thought he was trying to one up Dedra, but no, he's working with Luthen. That scene between him and Luthen was first of all in the elevator. When he'd say, hey, here you have a daughter now. He's like, come on, don't do that. Don't do that. And then he starts telling him everything. And that the dialogue in this show is the best dialogue. Again, I stand by it. Mandalorian's still my favorite out of the Star Wars shows. I also stand by that there's no competition that this is the best written Star Wars show. This is the best written Star Wars stuff we've had since Empire Strikes Back. That conversation between Luthen and Lonnie in that hallway, when he's like, yeah, I know you want to leave. You give me a bag of treats and that's with a farewell gift. No, it's not how it works. We need you. I think about you all the time. You're locked in. Sorry, bud. And he said, well, what'd you sacrifice? Like, oh, let me tell you. What did I sacrifice? Well, and he starts off slow, talking about basically everything. Gives up his morality. He gave up the inner peace, that whole monologue. And then he ends strong with just like, so what I give up? Everything. And it's like, damn. Skarsgård's another one. If he gets nominated, it could be. And then, you've got the stuff. I think that I love the stuff with Dedra, and when she's in the forefront, I'm captivated. I like that she was there. Her presence was there, but this wasn't about her mission about taking down the rebellion. It was present through the dialogue, through the understanding, and even Luthen saying, let her do her thing. And even the sacrifice of like, well, I know that those guys are going to die. It's 50 people, but if they don't, they're going to know something's up, and then you're toast. So I got to protect you. And it's like, oh man, like the sacrifice behind it. And even that whole speech he gives him where it's like, I'm not even going to see any of this stuff happen. I'm going to be dead. But I just know what's going to happen, and that's what I have to do. And like all of that, like the foreshadowing to everything that's going to happen with the rebellion, it also puts into perspective the rebellion wasn't just, oh yeah, there's a bunch of good guys now, they want to fight the bad guys. It took work and sacrifice, a lot of it. And speaking of that sacrifice, Mon Mothma, with that conversation, it was funny. I thought that the crook, or the gangster, or whatever the hell he is, I thought he was going to be, and I'm not meaning to say this insulting, someone of note as far as recognizable actor. I prefer that he wasn't. I think that the actor that they cast was really, really good in that role. It had a very Game of Thronesy feel to it overall, because the only thing I didn't like, and this wasn't his fault, this was a writing thing. He said money at one point. He was like, money has no importance to me. I wish he would have said credits. So nitpicky. So nitpicky. But that's it. It just I was like, hey, wait a minute. Let's stick with the terminology here. But that was it. But the conversation alone of where he's like, I don't need that. That's not what I'm here for. I want to be able to come back. And I'm going to bring my 14-year-old son with me next time. Is that cool? And Mon Mothma knows right away, like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, your daughter has been betrothed, and I know that Chindrala way, and what do you think? And she's like, beat it. And then, again, the dialogue. He's like, all right, well, it's a lot to think about. She's like, I'm not going to think about it. He's like, oh, that's a bummer. That's the first time you lied today. And it's like, oh, so good. That whole conversation, again, the tough position that she's in. What the hell's going to happen there? So it was just a very solid episode. And I love that these episodes have it. I think the first like 2 were maybe like in the 30 range, 36 range as far as length. They've been consistently between like 45 and like 50 now. And I think it's a good length. And there's only 2 left. So I wonder if K2SO is going to show up in the last episode. Maybe not. They give you that tease with that one droid. And maybe he's got a little bit more Andor has PTSD after what that last droid did to him. The last, kind. But apparently Tony Gilroy said we're going to see Yavin. Now we're going to see, I don't know if he said Yavin 4. I don't know if we're going to see it in the end of this, or if we're going to see it in season 2. I would assume you're definitely going to see it in season 2. There's no doubt. I just wonder if they're going to have the season finale there. What a fantastic episode this was. What a fantastic arc. So we close out with 11 and 12. I am just completely baffled by anyone who says this show's boring. Again, I'll give you slow. Fine. There are times it could be slow, but it's payoff that to me, I'm all for slow if the payoff is great. And this show has been great. This is the best written Star Wars in a very long time. I'll push back against anybody who says A, it's boring, B, it's not Star Wars. I'll push back all day long. It's about as Star Wars as it gets. The Imperial stuff and the build up, the politics behind it is the best politics Star Wars maybe has done so far. Love this show. Really do. All right. What do you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Were you bummed? Oh, how did when Andy Serkis was giving that speech, by the way, and I'll bring this up on Sith, I'm sure. How I saw bits of Gollum, I saw bits of Caesar. In general, how passionate he was. God, I love Andy Serkis. He's so good. Anyway, love to get your thoughts. Make sure you comment below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to get to 70,000 by the end of the year. We're almost at 60. So we'd have to hit 10 in about a month and a half. We hope that you guys will join us. Show a little. Just announce. And thank you guys. I appreciate you. That's Andor. That's episode 10. Peace.